Airline stocks took a bit of a hammering on exchanges across Europe yesterday. It followed another profit warning from an airline, this time from the German carrier Lufthansa. It comes as the airline industry looks to Paris for one of the showcase events on the aviation calendar. Eoghan Corry, editor of Travel Extra, is here. Start with that profit warning from Lufthansa, Eoghan. It follows similar warnings from Ryanair and EasyJet. What's going on in the sector?
Good morning, Brian. It's no coincidence that it's Lufthansa. It's no coincidence that Lufthansa are blaming Eurowings, their budget side, for the profit warning. Bit of a scrap going on in Germany. Two airlines came down, Air Berlin and Germania, and there's a big scramble for that business. Ryanair have identified Germany as their next big target. They said they were going to move from about 5% to 15% by now. They're actually stuck at around 9% of the market share. What they've done over winter, and people will remember the Ryanair results a few weeks ago, the guidance had been 1.2 billion in September, came down to 1 billion, but a lot of that money has been spent in a fare war in Germany, and Lufthansa are feeling the heat.
And Lufthansa made reference to that yesterday. They blamed other airlines for perhaps introducing an element of too much competition and letting fares go very low.
The Ryanair fare is now below €40. It's about €39. It's the sort of fare we haven't seen since 2004. I know listeners will say we haven't seen the sort of the €1 stuff that we had back in the early noughties in Ireland. But Germany is where the battleground is. Dusseldorf in particular is where the battleground is. There's a little bit in Berlin as well. But there's a scramble for this. Ryanair feel aggrieved that they say the Berlin government sort of carved up the aviation sector to exclude them and gave EasyJet the slots. What Ryanair have done is a classic counterattack. The Lauda Air that they bought just over 8 months ago now, they have been moving in on slots in Dusseldorf as an Austrian airline, and it's quite clear that the battle in Germany isn't over yet, but the German consumer is going to really enjoy low fares, and Lufthansa and other people competing in that market, including EasyJet, who recorded a loss last week, they are all going to suffer a little bit. There's the real casualties, as we've seen already with Primera and Germania and people like that, is in the fringes. The big airlines will hold on, they'll take a little bit of the heat, but anybody fighting for the scraps out of that market in aviation terms could see a very, very hot summer.
So more collapses to come?
Generally September is when the culling month comes, but we've seen a fair number of airlines come down already this year, which is quite unusual. And the most spectacular from the Irish consumer point of view was WOW, the Icelandic one, which was serving us transatlantic via Keflavik, but that had an impact on fares for the Irish consumer. Everybody's watching what's happening with Norwegian.
A quick look to the Paris Air Show, Eoghan. Boeing in the spotlight there. Its 737 MAX is still grounded 3 months on. What's going on?
It's the first time they've put their head over the parapet. Was at the Paris Air Show, and of course they had to answer all those questions about the MAX and new questions about the Dreamliner, the switches and the fire safety on the Dreamliner. Airbus, since February, we've been anticipating they'd announce their new A321 XLR. It's an extra long range, very significant for Aer Lingus should they get in the game for that. They aren't in the initial list of orders that were announced yesterday, but certainly 2 weeks ago in Seoul at the IATA conference, Willie Walsh was talking up the advantages of the XLR for Level and for Aer Lingus. What the XLR in a word does is it opens up West Coast US routes to a single aisle. It means you sell 180 rather than 200 seats on your aircraft, and it puts somewhere like Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Diego, Mexico City, and in the other direction Beijing on the it makes routes viable that would not otherwise be. It's not here for 4 years, but I can certainly tell you that in IAG and in Aer Lingus they'll be looking at that as a pretty nice little fit for an airline that likes to feed European customers through Dublin onto America. The likes of Anchorage in Alaska doesn't have a year-round direct route. That would be viable with this new aircraft.
Eoghan Corry, editor of Travel Extra, thank you. More at 8:30 now. Back to Brian.